It is a great honor and a privilege to introduce Gitel Fuks Davidson. We're here in your beautiful home in Beit Vegan in Jerusalem. And Gitel, you come from an amazing family, survivors from Denmark.
Yes.
Could you tell us a little bit about your family and your roots?
Yes, okay. So my father, Gitel Fuks, he was born in Poland, and to a Hasidic family, a Ger family. I didn't know it. It was Hasidic that many years later. I knew it. We had minhagim. I didn't know from where, but from my father's side. And when my father was a baby, about 1 year old, like many other Jews, he wanted his father was also a Shoah, wanted to leave Poland and to brighter future, and he was offered a job in Germany, in Frankfurt, because he was a very big time at Chocham. And he went there. He left his wife with 6 children, and they accepted him to become a Shoah there. So he said he has to go back to fetch his family. And the miracle happened. He went back, but until he came back to Germany, they gave him the job to another Shoah. If he was taking that job, I would not be sitting here today, because these were the first people who were transported to Auschwitz. They also came from Poland, from German, in German. So they said that they were looking for a Shoah in Denmark. And he went to Denmark. He saw a community. It was not very Jewish. It's a very small community, and not everybody was very from there. But he decided to go back and bring his wife and his family to Denmark. Actually, one of the brothers went to America. 2 of the brothers of my father's brother went to America as very young boys, and he went to Denmark with my father and his sister, only sister, and one sister and 2 brothers went to America, and my grandparents went to Denmark with two sons and the daughter. She was the oldest one. So my father was 1.5 years old when he came to Denmark in 1905. And they lived in where all the poor families from Eastern Europe lived in. It was a Swedish quarter. They were all very, very religious, which was not very common in Denmark, because they belonged to a big shul, which was, been conservative and very Danish. There were many also mixed marriages and all this. So they lived together in a very cramped quarter. And my grandfather also actually, he was called Moshe Fuchs. He went also to America to try his luck, but he came back very quick. And then he got the job as a Shoah in Denmark. And that's where my father grew up. And my father never went to yeshiva, but his father was very, very big time at Chocham, and he taught actually my father. Now, because it was a very poor family, so my father had to, when he was 7 years old, he was very active, like I inherited from him also. After school, he started working. There was a butcher shop, and he brought packages, to people. And he was, I think, only 8 years old when he came to a family, very rich family, Ruben. And my grandfather, who was Ruben, he opened the door. He was very tall, and between his legs there was a little girl, 3 years old, his youngest daughter. That was my mother. So that was the first time that they met, that my father saw my mother. And but in any case, he grew up there. He left school quite early, but he learned by his father, and he was working and everything. And they lived in Denmark, and he went to the Jewish boys, what they call the Jewish boys' school. And he had a very, very good head in mathematics and everything, but very, as I said, totally very active. When he was 24, 25, he got engaged to my mother. They knew each other already for many, many years, and they got married when he was 25. Now I'll say a little bit about my mother, because from here start the news. My mother was born in Denmark in 1909 to a very old Danish Jewish family. They came to Denmark in 1724. It was 300 years ago. there was a little bit more than 350 years ago, there was in Denmark the king. He was called Christian IV, and didn't have any money, so he invited actually very rich Jews to come to live in a few parts of Denmark, not in Copenhagen yet, to do business. And the family of my grandfather were called. We have got a long history. As you know, you also spoke to Milo, you know. We've got mutual, very many generations ago. We've got mutual family, and they were called Gedalia and Levi. I've got a book, but I don't know exactly how to make an order in it. And they came to Denmark, of course, from Holland, from Kleve, and from North Germany, and they lived in Denmark. And they were businessmen. They were, I don't know how much, they were very famous because Ruben was a very big family, and they were very noisy also. And my grandfather, he was called Julius Jakob Ruben. He was dealing with stamps and with currents, how do you call money, not money, how do you call this, coins. He was selling, he was traveling a lot. And he grew up in a traditional family, but not some of them, they even made non-Jews. And he heard about, and he traveled a lot, and he heard that in Sweden there was one very religious family in Göteborg, and they had a few daughters. So he went there in 1891, and I will after show you pictures because I've got an album that I made for my mother's first yahrzeit. And he met that family. The family they came from Lita, from Lithuania. They were called Oberstein, but they changed the family to Aberstein. Now Mr. Aberstein, he was a Talmud, of a very big rabbi. I don't remember who it was. I have to ask one of my half cousins. He was a Talmud of very known Rebbe Tzaddik in Lithuania. And I also have pictures of them. You see my grandmother with my great-grandmother with the Gitel, and you see my great-grandmother with the completely covered, and it's a very old pictures from the 18 something. And they live in Sweden. My grandmother was not born there. She was the oldest of a big family, but there was most girls. Maybe there was one boy, and my great-grandmother was called Miriam Fege, I think, Miriam Fege, and my grandfather was called Chaim Tzvi. And I have a letter that my grandfather, he took a Rebbe, he paid to a Rav, and taught him about the religious life, and he became very religious, my grandfather. And I have a letter that he wrote in 1891 to his parents. First of all, his handwriting is something very special, and he writes Bezrat Hashem up and the Jewish date, and he writes with a lot of kibbut avayim, with such a kavod that they give to he doesn't write you to his parents, my beloved parents, and with a lot of kavod. I have it also in Hebrew because I translated it. I have with God's help met the one that I think, if you will give your consent, she will be my future wife and go with the life. Very beautiful letter. And he writes this to his parents, and she signs underneath also, your future daughter-in-law, Sarah Aberstein. She was called Sarah Gitel, and I'm named after her. Sarah Gitel, that's my name. But I would never, only when they davened for me, they called me Sarah, but my name is, because I'm called Gitel, but my full name is Sarah Gitel. And they married in 1893. I've got pictures from their wedding. Beautiful wedding dress and everything. They got married in Sweden. They moved to Denmark. And my grandmother, she gave birth to 13 children. Two of them died in child very young, but my mother was the youngest one of them. She was the youngest of 11 children, and she got the name Henriette into Hebrew. I've got the Ketubah school Hindere. That was a Jewish name, and they moved to Denmark. And he was a very well-off person. He gave a lot of money to what they needed in the shul, which was another story about it. But he also, of course, they had a lot to eat in the house, but he was not a big spender on just to throw the things out. You know, he was not stingy at all, but he liked they should have a good life, and he would buy a lot of them, but not just throw out the money. And he traveled a lot, and he came back from Germany with the Gitel to my grandmother. I think she was the first one who really, and to she went covered from since she was married, and they had a very, very big apartment, huge apartment, I think with 10 rooms. I've never been there. They passed away before I was born, and there my mother was born. And I will finish maybe to speak about my grandparents, but I didn't know them really. But my grandfather, what I heard from my cousins, who were all much younger, much older than I am, because also my father was all the youngest in the family, and I'm the youngest one. So my cousins, I had a cousin who passed away 2 years ago. She was 97, and another one passed away after he was 96 the same year, and they're much older than I am. I'm really more on the age of the generation after me. And every day, the grandchildren had to come to my grandfather, and he learned with them every day more. That was, I was told, only a few years ago. He finished the whole Shas, don't know how many times. He was sitting in his home. He was sick with his heart, so he retired very early. But he learned every day, and he had a minyan in the house every day afterwards. On Shabbos, of course, everybody walked. There's even I have a little book from a Goyish, a neighbor of my cousin, who wrote a book, and she said every Shabbat, the Familienroom, her neighbor the daughter was her friend. They were in the best, nice clothes. They would walk. They had to walk to the grandfather he lived in Tordenskjoldsgade. That was the address. And because it's Shabbat, everybody would go there to be there on Shabbat, and they were not allowed to carry. We were a very, very strict family with all these things. So, and my grandmother, I unfortunately didn't know any of them, and she was not so healthy, but so she, it's a big family, she always had a help. And my mother, who grew up, they also went to a school. She went not to a Jewish school, but there were many cousins in the same school because they were very big. It was a very big family. She went to cousins in the school. My mother was very, always laughing, and she was laughing loud. She was very, very funny, and she laughed at everything. So she always got good, bad marks that she disturbed in the school because there were 4 cousins together, and the one behind her, she was telling her jokes, and she was laughing, and the one next to her, she couldn't hear, so said, "What did you say?" So my grandfather didn't care about this. And she finished the school when she was 14 or 16, then she had to help her mother in the house. And that was enough to do. So many funny, I don't think so, it's interesting for you. You can cut what you want.
No, it's all amazing.
Because my mother told me so many funny things. I have it in the album, I will show you afterwards. My mother always, she told me so many things that even my friends, my Danish friends, they asked me afterwards, how do you know so many things? My mother was also telling me a lot of stories. My father told me more other things, but my mother would sit every day and told me things that even 6 to 7 years after, when I went to Ukraine, my mother never been in Ukraine, with my mother-in-law to the Kibbutz Tzadikim just after the Gulf War. I saw, when we went to the kever of the Baal Shem Tov, all the view, my mother he's only from a book, it was as if she had been there. I said, it looks exactly like my mother told me. It was fantastic. she made everything so lively, and she would translate everything from German to Danish. I didn't know German at that time. And in any case, she grew up with my grandparents, of course, and then she got engaged when she was 19. That time it was not like, first of all, it was another generation, not like now Haredim and all this. They all knew each other. All the young people, they went to, even to the I don't know who you're going to show this film, even went to the sea together. It was a very new stick there, but they went to the sea together. It was very normal. They even danced together. And my father come from very, very religious family. So one day my grandfather said to my grandmother, you have to get married because it's not, your not that they were, but so they got engaged and they got married. They got married in my grandfather's house. That was very normal. You made the chuppah in the house, if they had a big house. Even in my age, I remember a sister, my friend, she got married in her uncle's house. The chuppah. So in any case, I don't think it's so interesting what I'm telling you.
It's so important.
So okay, I'll tell you another two very funny things that my mother told me. My grandfather, I think he became, he had a round birthday. You know what, a 50th, I don't know how old he was. And of course there was a big reception, so and now there was no code, in them you cannot go to a shop to buy cakes. You have to order because it was not kosher. And so they were very strict in the house, of course. So he ordered from somebody, I think 12 big, very nice cakes. Now the oldest sister of my mother, Esther, she was also very funny. She brought all her friends and saw these cakes. So then they all like sweet things in the Bruben family. I've inherited this till today. I start my day with chocolate every day. And they wanted to eat from the cake, but she figured out that if she would cut, my grandfather would see it. So she took a whole cake. And they ate it all. My grandfather, he saw it afterwards. He could see it, of course. He discovered it, but never mind. But it's funny things. And I've got a few funny things from my mother told me about, but it's not so important. And
can you tell maybe one or two of them?
Yeah, in the Ruben family, they were very red-haired. I've got no red-haired children. I've got grandchildren that were from my side. The sisters of my father, of my grandfather, they were very red-haired, and they were very, very heavy people. And they're very big. They ate good. So one day, my mother, I think she was 9 years old, she went to with her mother to the market, and they saw a big, how do you call this? The big, it's orange. Lard, you call it in Hebrew, calabasa, you call it. How do you call calabasa in English, Wilson? Calabasa. Squash. So he said, it looks like the head of Auntie Salina. So my grandmother, she gave her, that time he was still allowed to, she gave her, you don't speak like this, even if she was very funny, you don't speak, and that taught my mother, you're allowed at that time to smack your children. I don't think my mother got any, she was not sick because of this, she got no psychology problems because she got this
like a pet.
Slap. No. And she was very funny. She was always very funny. And because these are very, she told me this, and we were laughing. And so my grandparents, my parents, they got married, and they had seven children, and they got married in 1929. And my oldest brother was born in 1930, Josef Zvi, and my second brother, they're all children, but he passed away 10 years, 12 years ago, something. No, 10 years ago, in England. He lived in Switzerland for many, many years, for 55 years in Basel. He married a Swiss girl. And my second brother was Simcha Bunam. He was born in April 1931. and he passed away quite young. He had cancer. He passed away when I was 15, and he was not married. He's buried in Bnei Barak, and that is the only. When I go to Bnei Barak, I only once a year when on his yahrzeit, because he was not married, and I feel it very important to go to his Kippur, and I'll tell you a very special story afterwards about his new material that I made a few years ago. But that is not for now. Very, very special. And then my sister Rivka Miriam, she was born in June, the 21st of June in 1933, and she passed away in America not so many years ago, at the age of 88. She married a Satmar Chosid from Jerusalem. That's also a special connection. And she went to live in Williamsburg. And then my brother, Simcha Bun, we call him Simon in Danish. Miriam, we call her Miriam also in Danish. Rivka Miriam, she's called after my father's mother, who actually, I forgot to tell you, my father's mother called Rivka Miriam. She passed away when my father was only 19. She was sick. My grandparents are all buried in Denmark, by the way. And then I had a brother, Ariel Leib, we call him Louis. He was born in December 1935. And then I had a sister, and he passed away in Israel also. That the sister Rachel, she was called after. Rachel, she passed away about 12 years ago here in Israel. She went very young to Israel. Very beautiful. She was very beautiful. And we call her Rachel in Danish. She was named after a sister of my father, who passed away in childbirth many years ago when she was young. And then my sister Ruth, she's Admir Vesrim. She lives in America. She's also very, very, very Orthodox. She's Yiddish, but very, very Orthodox, very anti-Zionist. She lives in Borough Park. She was born in 1940, just three months after the Germans invaded Denmark. And then I'm born after the war, 10 months after they came back from Sweden in 1946. March 5. They came back in May 46, and I'm born in March 46. And I'm named after my grandmother, my mother's mother, who passed away in 1941 at the age of 70, I think. And that is the first part that I can tell you.
And can I ask, how do you remember all this? How did they go to? How were they saved? And how did they go to Sweden?
Now we have first of all, but you know what?
Maybe we should see the pictures of the family.
because it's,
So this is a picture of
my grandfather from Ruben's side, with his siblings and his father. As his father, he was called Moritz Moishe Ruben. And this is my grandfather here. He was called Jakob Ruben, or Julius, as he was called Julius Ruben, they're all. And his brother was called Harry. Actually, they married two sisters. He married my grandmother, so they called her Sarah. And he married her sister was called Clara. I knew that. I knew that was almost all what I knew. The other ones, they were very red-haired. I don't know if I know any. I don't think I know any of them. I think they all passed away. Besides his wife, I didn't know anybody. But they're all red-haired, and probably this is the one who had the what I must say. This was like was one of these. But they're all in some of them had the Cohen, and this is from my grandfather's side.
You can see a very illustrious family, a very special family.
Yeah, you can see they're they were very active, they were speaking very loudly. That's a typical Danish, but they were very traditional. Yeah, but this, it's a bit, I've got a better picture. You want me to bring it? These are my great-grandparents from my grandmother's side, from my mother's side. They came from Lithuania, and they went to Sweden. And she was called, no, she was not. She was called Lea Feige, and he was called Chaim Tzvi. And this is from 18 something.
1872.
Yeah. Okay. And here you see my grandparents got married. Sorry, yeah. My grandparents got married in 1893. And here's the photocopy of the letter that my grandfather wrote to his parents. You see it was getting Baruch Hashem upset. It's from 1881, and he doesn't even write 18. He writes the Jewish date. Jewish date he writes the 25th of Kislev, 5652, and he writes the 26th of 1291. He doesn't say 9. He doesn't 18. He was very strict with all these things, and he writes to his parents very nice that he met his future wife. And these are the children who were born. That is my mother's, the little one. I got to be in the entrance, a big one. My mother's the youngest one. She's 9 years old here.
And that's your mother at the...
Then my mother, you can see the big one in the entrance, the original one. She's 9 years old here. You want all the names? Wow. Okay. 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 This is the oldest one, but I will give you a bigger picture because it's very small. The oldest one was called Leon, actually, Arya Yehuda, I think it's called, Leon, and he, unfortunately, passed away in Theresienstadt in a concentration camp. That's another story I will tell you, but not now. He was taken with his wife, unfortunately, did not run away. He did not believe that anything would happen to them. And for Rosh Hashanah, they were taken the night, and he became sick there. He was always not, he was well already as a child, he was not well, and he passed away. But his wife came back with all the 4 children. And his daughter passed away, to be 2 years ago now, in Elul, 97 years old, and she's already the 5th generation. And I went to visit every year. Judith, she was fantastic. She lived in Bnei Brak. Judith Brinkman, fantastic person. Completely clear in her head. And that was okay. And then there's Tante Esther, number 2, Esther. And this was Tante Rosalie, or Rosalie we called her. And Uncle Meinert was his Goyish name is Moshe, and this Uncle Benny. That's Uncle Benny. Uncle Benny was called Pinchas. He passed away not so many. He passed away before my mother was the last one who passed away at almost 86 years old, and he passed away before her. They were 2 youngest. They were the last 2, and we have to remember all of them. This I remember. This Uncle Hirsch, Uncle Koppel, this Uncle Hirsch is Uncle Louis, Uncle Koppel, I will see what their name are. Leon, Esther, Frida, Salomon, no, that is Salomon. Rosalia, Louis, I think it was me, Louis, I don't know which one is Louis, I don't remember. Here's Koppel, Benny, Meinert, yeah, I think I said all the names. Okay, so I'll say it again. Uncle Koppel, my mother, Henriette, Esther, Onkel Benny, Onkel Leon, we called him, Tante Frida, Tante Rosalie, Onkel Meinert, Moise, Onkel Hirsch, I remember him very well, Uncle Louis, I said that already, and Uncle, who did I forget now? Uncle, I don't remember who, I don't know if I forgot anybody. But in any case, they were 11 and my mother was the last one who passed away.
It's amazing that this picture survived.
You should see, I've got the original one on the wall here.
So this is a picture of your parents when they got engaged?
Yeah. It's a picture of my parents when they got married.
And this is the original picture?
Yeah, yeah. So really, there are many original pictures. My mother had many pictures. It's from 1929.
Do you know who the Rob was who married them, or?
Yeah, I've got the Kasube. And it was Dr. Friediger who married them. We had him here in Eberhard's Kunstadt. He was Rosh Yeshiva. His father was Rosh Yeshiva of Kol Torah. And his brother lived in Denmark. He was one of the witnesses for my parents. He was reading. He said that was the one in Denmark, the uncle in Denmark. And he was a witness of my parents. He
was out of the Edim?
From Germany. This is the one who had the head like a squash. That's with my grandfather. It's from 1902. It is til Natalie fra din fader. He sent it to his daughter. It's from 1902. It is the grandfather of my mother from my father's side, and Tante Saline, the one with the big head. So that's how she looked.
They look very Danish, very...
Danish and very colorful.
Yeah.
My mother was a person who always saw the funny thing. It was like, oh, she's so frightened. She's so colorful. My mother would always see the good things, the bright side. It's the father and the daughter.
It's wonderful.
My mother in the school. That is my mother. You see, the old Gregors, but there was a few cousins. It's a girls' school.
But there were a few Jewish children in the school?
Yeah, like in my school also. Yes.
And did your mother ever have any anti-Semitism in the school, or
no,
any anti-Jewish feeling?
No, because it was so integrated in the Danish. No. It was some because in my school, I was with my best friend till today. There were many Jewish people. There were in each there was a Jew, and we definitely had a teacher for 4 years. She was the wife of the priest, and she was so not nice to us. I would tell you, it made something very amazing. And my mother, it's true that I disturbed a little bit in the school, and I switched schools after the 5th grade because my mother wanted, because I was the only Jewish girl in my former school, and my mother wanted me to be with the Jewish girls. So I went to this school. And we got this, and in the former school, they loved our family. And in this school, she didn't like me very much. So when my mother came to the first parents meeting, she said, "Your daughter Gitel, she's disturbing all the time." And I said, And you know when my mother came home and said, "I'll tell you something." He said, "She's a very bad woman, this one." I said she would not say, but I knew I was disturbing. When I was in Denmark, 12 years ago, we had 100 years for the shul, for the religious shul, that my grandfather was one of the founders. Been here, one of the founders. We went to the Holocaust Museum from the Second World War, and I bought books. And I bought the books from the Resistance, very thick book. Now she had a not common name, the teacher. She was called Kirsten Skjoldager. That was her name. And the one who writes the book, it's unbelievable. He was one who, the Germans were looking for him because they also went to Sweden, and the resistance, they were looking for him, and he looked for a place to hide. And he said, I was so happy. I met my cousin Kirsten Skjoldager on the street. They had a big villa, and I asked her if I can come to her in the evening. And she was so nasty to me. She said, no, we have got guests in the evening. She said, but I never spoke to her again. And I said, you see, I said to my friend, Ruth, that was her name. You see, even her cousin didn't like her. You see how she was? That was her name. And it's a very not common name. That was our teacher. And my mother said that she's a very bad woman. Isn't that unbelievable? My mother had a very... my mother had a very good... My mother was not very learned, but she has a very good eye for people. So this is good, and this... I will tell you some... Look what pictures I made. That was my grandmother. So Gitel. As a young girl. No, she was... Yeah. From Göteborg, yes. As a young girl. The pictures are very... you probably... That is my grandmother with my mother. My mother's a little child. Here's is even younger. It's a Gitel she has on the head. It's
That's with your mother?
Also, my mother's a baby. I don't, for my father, I don't have any pictures. No, but just somebody asked me now, my sister said, I don't have any pictures of my father. Your grandma, you probably took in the entrance already. This is my sibling.
So this is the sibling.
Yeah, but I'm not born there yet. It's just when, it's in 1940. That's my sister, who was before me. I'm not born here yet. It's in 1940. I've got it without the... You know why it's in plastic? Because I was a kindergarten teacher, and I told so many stories that we made. I told them about this, a door. You know the door? Generations. So because I wanted them to ask, so I bought all the pictures. The first generation, the second generation, it was on the wall. So that's why I put in nylon. This is my grandmother. No, it's not so interesting. Not interesting. No, it's not. It's grandmother's sister. Cover this again. That's my father's a young man.
So is this one of the few pictures you have of your father?
From it's 20. Yeah. Unfortunately, one of my sisters took these pictures. My mother was not in the country, in Denmark. She took all, because she loved it, and she took all without permission. And when afterwards she was very sick in America. And one day her daughter mentioned that she was tearing up all the pictures. I asked if I could get them. When she passed me, she said, you don't know what happened? And no pictures.
They were lost?
No, she tore them. I don't know why she tore them up. This is my grandfather. My grandfather with my mother and my oldest brother. He loved my oldest brother.
Your grandfather?
And with my mother and my oldest brother. My oldest brother was very sick when he was born. He was born at home. He was very, very ill. When he became 30 days old, my grandfather said now he will live. And he had his Peter Naben in time. His bridge when he was 3 months old. And my brother was, my uncle was sitting with him he was 3 months old, and suddenly he made pee in his tea. That I was always told afterwards. I was told that you should run.
Again?
That was my great-grandfather. Kremsvig.
And that's...
And my great-grandmother, Lærfæge.
And Gitel,
that's in Sweden, but that's already afterwards. That's my father's father, the Shoah, in Sweden. You can just take a picture because it's in 44.
That's when the family had escaped to Sweden.
Yeah, that's in Sweden. That's engagement with my son. How they made the pictures. Look at every. You see how? No, I wanted to show it because the quality. That's why you can keep the pictures for so many years. It's not. It was very expensive, but that's the quality.
And it lasts.
It lasts. It's 150 years old. So I will show you the. We'll go to this and the letters and all this because it's very mixed in here now. Yeah, my piece of my parents. Okay. So this is okay. So this is okay. So I will tell you very short now. Okay. There's a very famous. It's famous. But I don't want into this. There was one big shul in Denmark, and they had. There was a time they had two rabbis. One very more orthodox and one more modern. And in the beginning of the 19-something, the more modern, they wanted to make something. They got a very orthodox Rab called Rab Levenstein. He was born in Indonesia, I think. His grandson lives there, Goldschmidt, and his great-granddaughter was in my kindergarten. And he looked very modern, but he was very orthodox. He did not agree to the things. And he had there's a whole story about it. You can read on the internet. You call Marsigadat in Denmark and all this. So my grandfather had quite a lot of money. They gathered together, and they founded a new Kahil called Marsigadas. And this is I have a book. I can no, it's in Hebrew. Because the English version I just got, and I'm not finished to read it. This is in a big plaque in the shul there. My grandfather's also made because he paid it. He paid for the foundation of the shul. He was in the management for a few years, and then the Rab he made and he paid the salary. But then the Rab had secretly made a contract with Zurich in prison, and he left after a few years. They of course very disappointed because it cost them a lot of money. There was a whole court case, but not with the big shul, and they had to pay him a lot of money. And then he left. Only stayed for a few years here. Then he went to Switzerland. He was there for many years. So this is what's written here. That my I can tell you in Hebrew what's written here. Okay. Okay. You understand Hebrew? One famous story about my grandfather, two famous stories. Okay. In Copenhagen, I will tell you in English. In Copenhagen, my grandfather was, I told you he was dealing with coins and all this, and he went a lot to outside the country, and then he bought a Gitel for his mother and for his wife. He was a well-off person who also had his money in a private bank. I heard it from somebody else. It's a true story. The director was a Jew, but and also the royal house all had the money in the same bank. And when my grandfather heard that the director he had become a Christian, he went to the church to be smarted, what we call smarted. It's that to put the water on the head. He went straight to the bank and to take out all his money. He didn't want the bank to somebody who made like this. So the cashier, she went to the director and said, Mr. Ruben is here to take out all his money. So he said, why Mr. Ruben? So he said, the one who cheats God, he would cheat the people afterwards. He took out all his money. The week afterwards, not because of my grandfather, the Pashat der Regel, what do you call it? When the bank had lost all the money, what do you call it?
Insolvent.
How do you call it?
Insolvent.
We call it Pashat der Regel in Hebrew. And the royal house lost all the money. But my grandfather is at the principle. He's not going to deal with somebody who's cheating a Kodesh Baruch Hu. And that is one of the things. And I heard it when I was in Denmark in '94, and I asked my colleague, he said it's true. It's a true story.
So he went to convert to...
No, the director converted already. But it doesn't, Jewish. But my grandfather heard it. He took out all his... He didn't want to have the money in such a bank. And he was right. He lost all the money. No, never mind. There's another thing that... so here in Copenhagen, in the beginning of the 1900, there was one shul with two rabbis. One was Orthodox and the other one was more liberal. When they started they had a big fight. So the Giyur, many became Gerim because of the mother was a goy and she wanted the confirmation. And he said, they cannot convert if they want to keep the Shabbat at least and Kashrut. And it was intermarriage, very, very high. So it was my grandfather who paid for the foundation of the new shul, and he also paid to Rav Levenstein the salary, and they write. It was in many places, and in the First World War, it's written here also. So here's another picture. There you see my mother's baby. You see here my mother's not born yet. It's 1903 with some of the siblings, and here my mother's born. This is my grandfather with his mother.
That's in 1910.
Yeah, my mother's 1 year old. And no, that is with his wife. That's my grandmother. So Gitel, here's with his mother. No, in another picture. No, it's another picture. It's with his wife. In World War II, Denmark was neutral. And you can imagine that Estrog was not so difficult to get. They didn't have any Lulobim. My grandfather had a very bright idea. He went to the botanical garden, to the how do you call this house where it's very warm inside?
A greenhouse.
A greenhouse, and he asked if he could pay for the two palms. He said, I want to pay you for what it costs, but I only want to take the middle of the tree. That's how we got Lulobim in Denmark. A bright idea. My husband could do the same. So this is when my mother is born. I got here also now. She's actually only 3 years old here. That's her. When she got the name, she's called Henriette.
That's her birth certificate?
No, it's a copy of it because we lost the original one. But it has a certificate. Yes, but it's written when she's born.
1909.
Yeah, the 1st of July, the first day of the holidays. My mother was very fat of age.
And that was your mother when she was 3?
Yeah. that you saw already. We've made all the pictures of it. And here my mother is 9 years old. 9 years old, and she's near the sea. There in Copenhagen there are many lakes. And here's when she's 16. She's helping her parents in the house, in the school we already showed you. And here my father, he writes here to my dear, to my beloved Henriette. And here my father was he was not even so black, because my mother was more dark than my father. And here's the Kasube. It's a copy of it. I have got the real one. Because you know why we had such a discussion. My mother passed away, but we should write on the matseve. One sister said it could be without Henriette, but we spoke. I went to Rave, what's his name in the old city? Rave. Nebenfeld. Here you see Kunstadt. Kunstadt here. Kunstadt, one of the witnesses. That his nephew, that his brother was the founder of Kultur. So this is an old Kapsube. This is my parents when they got married.
In 1929.
Yeah, in August. And here's my mother that you saw before, and here's my grandfather and my father with my two oldest siblings. It's a very famous place in Denmark, not far from the Little Mermaid. And every Sunday, my parents had a small house, like outside the city. You know, the city was sitting outside, like it with a garden. And every Sunday, they would all come to visit them. They had a good time there. That's my cousin. Then the one who passed away 2 years ago. Judith, where are you? Judith. No, she's not in this. Yeah. Uncle Leon? No. No, it's not in this picture. Another picture I have. Not in this one. So, these are old.
And these are letters that...
This is my... Yeah, but the letter... Okay. I have to make a little bit say the next time you come. This is my mother with her oldest 4 children. Joseph, Louis, Argeleb, Miriam, and Adil Simchabuna, Mrs. Joseph. My father writes to her that she has to be careful that they should not get a cold, and they have to she should give healthy to it. He knew that my mother liked sweet things. Take care of. My father was very diligent, very. Okay, so now we jump a little bit, and here's in 44 actually, in Sweden, with my paternal grandfather. He's the only one who passed away after I was born. It's called Moishe. But you know what? My father's name was Michael Jacob. My grandfather's name was, from my mother, Jacob. So they said, oh, we don't. My mother called my father Michael, and not Jacob. And this is the Shoah by somebody. Another story I have to tell you about another time, about the Kiddush special. So here's only with 3 siblings, with 4. But I have to tell you also how they fled. That's another time. I'll tell you. And so this is what is. She is the baby. That's me, when I was born.
And that's after the war.
That's in 46 already.
And were you born in Denmark?
In Denmark. And this all that here, I'm the little one. I remember that dress, putting it down, I'm putting it up, they're putting it down. It was the day before my oldest brother went to Gitel Yeshiva. So that is here, that's already, no, that's in Denmark. So my mother liked very much to sew and to bake and all this. Stories about my mother. And here my mother also came to Israel. My mother loved Israel. She came to Israel, and she was very special. So my husband met her a student girl from the Best Jacob Seminary, and she only paid half price. Obviously, she was a pensioner, so we made many funny things now. And here is my father at my sister's wedding. And here on Har Zeitim, they're buried there. And I bought two for
Your parents?
My parents, they bought on Har Zeitim. And after my sister passed away in 2013, I asked afterwards, she's buried in Har Menuchot, down somewhere, and her daughter is going to be above her. So I asked where they're going to bury us. So my daughter said, where you will be room. So I said, thank you. I went to the Rebbe. My mother was once in the Rebbe, also in Denmark and also here. So we said, oh, he knew the daughter of Frau Fuks. And I bought the last Tuchwohn was in the forearms of my parents.
In Har Zeitim?
In Har Zeitim.
My mother and my grandmother's also buried in Har Zeitim.
But I got them for it's the best buy I ever made. I got it for a bargain price.
It's very dear. It's very proud. It's so,
yeah.
So,
but my husband,
so difficult.
My husband doesn't like Har Zeitim, but he didn't understand really much. He started only 10 years ago to get the Alzheimer. I went there, and I got them so cheap you can't imagine. The best.
Today it's virtually impossible. It's virtually impossible today.
Because he was only and I got reduction because I bought two. No, it's also important because also when you read that, my parents, my children will see also my parents' grave. So I went 2 years ago. My parents have got 6 days, 10 years and 6 days between the yard site. But I took my children. It was 2 or 3 years ago. My boys came with me, and my daughters, one of my daughters. So I showed them here. We're going to be there. So they said to me, Mama,
in many years.
Come lay down there. We'll write before and after. We have got very black humor in our family. But something very, very nice about my father. When he passed away, my father passed away on Shabbos here in Beit Vegan. My mother passed away Erev Shabbos.
It's a big schut.
Both of them.
Wow.
Both. He by Friday night, clear like Jacob. It's called miraculously. He came back from the toilet. He was on the body. He had been 24 operations, and all his doctors had passed away before him. The last one was after my father passed away. Was killed in an accident 5 weeks after my father passed away. Here, Dr. Merzfachler, if you know about it, it was five weeks after my father. Yeah, and you can even see my gravestone here.
Oh, but in many years to come, many years.
And here's where my mother, she got Alzheimer. I didn't know what it was. She was living by us, and I couldn't understand what's going on with her. And then that time there was no Filipino. And but they built a new, it's called Bet Reuven. My mother was Bet Reuven in Talpiot, but I went to her every day to put her to get her undressed, to put her in the toilet, to clean clothes for the morning. Every day on Shabbos I would walk there.
Talpiot, it's a far walk.
It was, yeah, but that time they didn't have, they didn't build all this down there, so there was a field there. After there was a field next to Sharet Tzedek, a beautiful field. And in 10 minutes I was in Givat Mordechai. It took 50 minutes to go, but on Rosh Hashanah I had to go back also. And in somebody to come back by feet. But Baruch Hashem. And here's my oldest brother with her in the room. In her room, she had all the pictures on the wall. My sister, I told her and that is my son. He was actually in the army already. And one of the nurses, and my mother. I was by in the evening, and 5 in the morning, I got, that time we had basic. And even 4 or 5 in the morning, they called me Friday morning. I said, it cannot be. I was just by her last night. So I said, we came at 2 o'clock, she was okay. We came in the morning too. And she was smiling. The morning, she didn't really, it was Mitat Neshika, also my father, Mitat Neshika. And that was it. So then so that people wrote me. And that is my mother, a picture my sister made of my mother. This is the Matzeva I made for my brother in Bnei Brak. Is your telephone? Yeah. You have the same as I have, the same telephone. But that is the whole story to say, because here I got from the Shemaim when I made the Matzeva. You want it? You
Please, if you could.
It's a bit complicated. Okay, I will tell you that you couldn't see the Matzeva anymore. It's not such a good picture, but it's my brother. When my brother passed away in 61. Yeah, in 61. I was in Switzerland playing with Yoseli. But it's another story. But in any case, it was very old Matzeva, and I want to make a new one. So now one of my sons live in Bruchin. You know where Bruchin is? Today there was an alarm there in the morning today. Bruchin is in the Shomron, near Peduel, where the one was a few months killed with the baby.
It's so sad.
That's from there.
With
yes.
the father, with the mother, and she was pregnant.
He lives there. He's one of the older. He's one of the first ones to live there. And one of them who live there, they've got here. They make matzevis here in Jerusalem. So he said to me, "Listen, go to Rosenfeld. He will give you a good price." And I went there, and then we made a picture of the old matzeva. And on the old matzeva, it was not big. It was my parents wrote. There was one grammatical mistake, and they wrote. Somebody wrote it for them. Niftar, he passed away. Beshishi, Kaf Gimel Tammuz. Beshishi was written on the 6th day. So they said, so the Rosenfeld, he asked me if I don't want to write Yom Shishi. So I called up my cousin who is still alive in Rishon LeZion. He passed away 2 years ago. It's 1.5 years ago. I said, Manfred, I will mention after another story about them. Another story. But you were just the Levaya of Simon, Zichron Livrocha. Do you remember the story? He said to me, why don't you write Erev Shabbat? Now it was on a Monday in the week. I called him up. I called up Tuesday. I said, you know what? It's a good idea. I called up Rosenfeld on Tuesday. It's not Erev Shabbos, Tuesday. And I said to Rosenfeld, you know what? Change it from Shishi. Be and write Ein Shabbat Shin Kuf Erev Shabbos Kodesh. He said, okay. I get goosebumps when my husband came to Denmark. The year it was, we got engaged. He passed away in 61. My brother, in the middle of all this was with Yosef and all this story, and we got engaged in 65. We made it. I was here on the visit in 65, and we got engaged in 65. And what did my husband bring to my parents? You remember what the gramophone is? You remember the discs, the big gramophone? The records. He brought to my parents 2 records. One of the Mishpachat Malavsky and one of David Verdiger, the father of Mordechai ben David Verdiger. I don't know if you know I can tell you I can put it on and you can hear the song. And my parents loved that record. Every day they were putting, where's my telephone? Every day they were listening to this song. I'll put on. You don't believe. You won't believe it's when I told to my father, when I made this new, it was 3. My husband was already. It was not. He started to cry. I will start to cry. I'll put it now. Just a minute. Oi. No YouTube. You'll hear it now. Okay.
It's very well known. It's
That was in the record. It was Tuesday I called up the man in Rosenfeld. Nothing to do with Shabbos Tuesday. In the afternoon in Radio Moreshet, there's something called Dvora Kitzis. She put on all Hasidic, but new music. Suddenly, this come up on a Tuesday, not on a Thursday, and I hear this, and I just told me Erev Shabbos Kodesh. I say it was like before that I said to my parents, I'm sure that you agree that I changed it from Shishit to Erev Shabbos Kodesh. 10 minutes later, I hear that in the radio.
That's amazing.
We started to. I told you I got goose. It was like to get okay from them. I met her because her sister was in my kindergarten, but I met her a few years ago. Said after this, I met her at the wedding. Said, Deborah, why did we? She said, I don't know. And she, but it's a very old record. I said, I don't know. And on the Tuesday, not on a Thursday. Thursday we put on
before Shabbos they made.
But it was Tuesday. It was not Thursday. It was Tuesday, Monday or Tuesday.
Incredible.
It was so amazing. It was so amazing. You can't imagine. It was like to say,
like a siman.
We
Siman.
agree.
Yeah, it's a siman.
We agree. I'll tell you now. Stop. Not about my parents. We agree. It was amazing. I tell you, I'm still. I get even when I think about it now. It was amazing. And I came with, and they put it up. I had the Yadas in Kaf Gimel Tammuz in the 3 weeks, and they put it up, and he said he will. And I wanted to show it to my husband because my husband couldn't already not travel anymore. So I said, well, before they sent to Bnei Brak, I wanted to see the gravestone. That was the week of it was beginning of Tammuz. Now. I told to my husband, so I called up, he said, it's right, he said, I want to show it to my husband, but he said, I'm not here, I will only be here on Thursday. On Thursday, my husband suddenly said, as I want to take you to give out Shaul, just to show you the gravestone, it's near Gitel. So he said, when is the Yatzal Ramamram? He said, it's today. It was the 15th, 2 days before Shavuos Batam. It's today. The Shabbos was Shavuos Batam the same year. So we went also to we go every year, but he didn't go. But he didn't go out of the car. We went also to his grave also. Isn't it amazing?
It's incredible.
I'll tell you another amazing thing, but it happened our family, it can only happen to the family Davidson. I told you the root beer was here 4 years ago, I also made a party, and she also came. I made a party, it was before, it was, when was it? It was in 43, they went to Sweden. In 19, they just, a few months before the Corona, I told I've got a very good friend called Ruth Langfjord from Denmark. I said, Ruth, I want to make something for I love to make tarties. So she said, why don't you? So I want to make, for the 75 years of the flight from Denmark, nobody made Seudat Hodaya when they came back because 6 million were killed. But I want to make, after 75 years, I want to make a Seudat Hodaya. But I want to make, I didn't think of the garden, I want to make it in a restaurant. She said, make it where you make the Shavuos for my grandnephew. In Koritz, in Geula, it's a badatz. So I said, you know what, Ruth, that's a good idea. I called them up. I said, have you got maybe Rosh Chodesh? No, it was Rosh Hashanah. In Tishrei, I cannot make anything. But I asked if they've got maybe Rosh Chodesh Cheshvan. That was just a time of Rosh Chodesh Cheshvan. They had the free. I said, I want to take all the rest. It's a very small restaurant, but I want for 50 people, 45 people. I found even Eva Beer. I got in contact with her because all those who were, and I made, it's very, very special evening. I prepared everything, of course. I started Siyad Lishmai. I will give you, when the next time you come, because I'll give you what I made for the same evening. I'll give you a remembrance from but how I. Okay, that evening, it was Rosh Chodesh Cheshvan, so I made Sudat Hodaya in Koritz, in a restaurant, in Geula, and I made also my friends from Bnei Barak, I made them a Hasa'ah. I ordered a taxi for them, and also another place, because I want them so much to come, and I wanted to invite them. When I was a child, my father was a Shoah. We didn't have much money in the house. We didn't have anyone in the house. And I loved to give. And it was my dream that I can give to everybody. So I wanted to invite everybody the same evening. I told them, you're not going to pay me. I want to invite all of you. And it was not so expensive. They came. Somebody said there would come 20. They came, more than 40 women came. Some stayed, but there were more than 40. And then I paid for 50 because it was much cheaper. And it included the taxes and everything. And I came home and I said to my parents, I'm sure that you had to enjoy in the heaven, so all the survivors, that I made this Seudat Hodaya. 3 weeks afterwards, I filled out. I got a lot of, but I only filled out very, very little. It's for 10 weeks, 2 or 3, every week, very, very little. She called me up 3 weeks later, the lady from the lotto here in Beitvik, they said, Gitel, you had five numbers right, but there were many in the same weeks. And you got, I think it was 3,000 something, it was a very, very strange, no, it's 15,000, but it was 3,800 something. I said, thank you. And suddenly I sit down and I make the cheshbon. Exactly the money, exactly the money I given out the same evening. What were the numbers? My parents' birthdays.
That's amazing.
Only one number was missing. Maybe there was one. My mother was born the 1st of 9, and my father was born 22 of November 3. I had 5 of the numbers. And I asked them, I'm sure you're happy that I got exactly the same amount back that I gave the same evening on their birthdays.
That is incredible.
Isn't that incredible?
It really, it's
it is like, we agree. Isn't it incredible? That happened before with the Matzeva. The Matzeva was 2 or 3 years later. It's like to get a kiss from my parents.
But that you did the Karas HaTov for being rescued.
I learned from my parents, the Karas HaTov, something I learned from my parents. We never forget if somebody made me, I learned from, my mother, they would never forget anything if somebody make them a toive. Never. I go to my, even not all my neighbors are very nice always, but every Yom I give everybody something. Thank you for this, thank you for that, it doesn't matter. And if I'm angry with the children, I tell them the slicha afterwards that I was angry, because I get angry also, it happened.
It's unbelievable. And can I ask, the story how your parents went to Sweden, can you tell a little bit, because it's so important?
I can tell you. Yeah, of course I can tell you. You're going to tell Tehillim for me today. I start to say Tehillim in the morning. I wrote down. Yeah. Okay. Because my mother, as if I was there. So you know that the Germans invaded Denmark. Invaded in the 9th of April 1940, and without any resistance. It's a very small country. It's on the north of Germany. And actually, you know, they like the Danish people, the German, because they're very blonde and all this. And they made an agreement that they would do nothing to harm the Jews, because first of all, there were only 7,000 Jews living in Denmark, maximum, never more. So my father, he continued to Schritte, and everybody continued. My siblings continued to go to school, and everything was quite normal. And you were not allowed to wear weapons. And my father, he has his chalif, his knife for the Schritte, but he always had it inside under the titties, and once he was stopped, there are many bridges, and then because they stopped and they didn't find it. He came home quite shaken. But that my mother told me, and my sister also told me. And now my father went to school every day. And Erev Rosh Hashanah, now they had 6, my sister was born in 3 months after the Germans invaded Denmark. And my father went to school Erev Rosh Hashanah. In the meanwhile, my grandmother had passed away in 1941, my mother's mother. And my mother's father passed away the 7th day of Pesach, 1943. Before they started that was only in October afterwards, in April it was. Now he also left money for all his children. There was a testament and everything. Normally you get it after 1 year because it's very important to mention this. And there was just in August I think how do you call it, the Memshala?
The government.
The government they went down. How to say, they didn't want to build not retired, but they because because the Germans wanted to get. They didn't want to do because they wanted. They started to be more strict. In August, the resistance became very, very strong, and there were also Danish who worked with the Germans, but they started to arrest all the policemen. So they just decided they sent somebody from Germany. They decided that it's enough with the Jews. I want to give you the birthday present to Hitler, Yamach Shmo. Besides that, the Danish king is the grandfather of the Danish king now. Christian X, he was a very big lover of the Jews. There was nothing with the stars. It's not true. But every morning he went it's in on the film. If you open up, every day on his horse by himself. To say hello to the Danish people. You see them how they bow down, how the ladies do like this. It's so nice and it's very moving. And every morning he was seeing the Rab of the Kehle, the other Rabbiner Jacobson, Bolle Jacobson. He had a big beard. Every time he would greet the king and say, he would say hello to him. And one day the Rab didn't come. He was so afterwards the king, in the beginning of the war, he said, where was the Rab, Herr Rabbiner, where had he been? He said, I was sick. But he asked where's the Rabbin because he didn't see him for a few days. But he paid attention, he didn't see the Rab. But in any case, after the German didn't allow him, he was like a prisoner in his own castle. He couldn't go out. And then they decided they would arrest all the Jews. And when Rosh Hashanah, when all the Jews were in the house, Rosh Hashanah Thursday and Friday, there was the Shabbat 3 days. But one of the Germans called Dukovich, he was not a real Nazi. He was good to on the purpose he said to somebody who was connected to the Jews, so that they're going to arrest. And somebody, I don't know if he or somebody went to Sweden. Sweden was neutral. Now Sweden, no, they don't. There were not many Jews in Sweden. In Sweden, they don't like Jews normally. But he went still to Sweden to some and told them, listen, this and this, and they will receive the Jews. So they agreed to it. So in any case, Erev Rosh Hashanah, my father came to the Slichas, and the Rab had already been arrested before he was in the prison he was not in the Reichsstadt, and they're taking the list from all the community, but the list was not up to date. They also came to look for people who were not also my grandfather was not alive anymore, but the helper Rabbiner he was the chief rabbi afterwards. We call him Rav Melcher. Here they call him Rav Melchiah, the grandfather of one of the who has been a member in the Knesset. He told when they came to the shul, he said everybody go home, and and take the family. You will find refused by your neighbors or by somebody, and there were no telephone, no telephones. It was like from mouth to the ear. So people stopped in the street, you need help. But then there was somebody who was very, very active. That was David Zambolinski. Zambolinski had come also from Lita, but in the 20s. But they were, and they were a very nice family. They were friendly with my parents. And they were on the way to Israel. So all the children there, they learned a profession they could do in Israel. And one of the sons, who became over 100 years old, he learned to become a doctor, I think. And he went to his professor, of course, and he went from house to house to warn the Jews to go into even Rosh Hashanah. And he was he looked like real Jewish. And we actually did the same, even when they wait in the restaurant. I made a big. Somebody helped me. We made a big document on the cloth, and we put it in a frame. And everybody's very nice. Somebody wrote for me, and we all signed on the back Hakora Satov with our maiden names because our parents were saved. They were in that party, and he also asked. It was my sister Miriam who made it because he knew my siblings, and in any case. My father came home and he said to my mother, nothing will happen. So my mother said, okay, you want to stay here, but I'm going to with my children. And one of the director of the school, also the teachers, and they were very, very kind to the Jews. And they went actually north of Copenhagen to a family where the big villa, and also my grandparents also. He was called Rector Oxenbad. He actually wrote a book. No, Bertelsen wrote a book. He also writes about my grandfather. He married the second time, and he writes about him in that book. And they went into hiding there, and my father went back the same day to stay very close to the children. And when he was in the apartment, somebody called, but didn't answer. So my father, he left very quick It made was also so I don't know. Very quick he left the apartment. And he came back without a beard. And my sister didn't recognize him. He had a beard, and there's a man there. So no, so my mother said, it's your father, but after a few days, of course, somebody was talking, and they had to go. So this picture here, you asked what it is. This picture is actually taken on Rosh Hashanah. I have also a picture in my own album. Each one had, because they got false papers. It's October 43, Fuks family before escaping to Sweden. That's my siblings. In the north where they were hiding. And of course, so my parents, I think it's very, very short now. My parents could not take 6 children with them. Now, from where did they have the money? The government, they released for my grandfather, instead of waiting a whole year, they released after half a year. So now my mother got, they had to pay a lot of money, but they also paid for other people who didn't have money. They never got the money back, but I'm sure that in Canadian...
Your parents helped the other Yidden?
He paid for a few other people also. But I'm sure that they got paid in the Canadian for this. And we did not have much money in my house, by my parents. And my parents went with 3 children. The other 3 children, my sister Miriam, I changed her name from Miriam to Maya, with a Goyish name. And my sister Rachel, she was called called Bente, it's a Danish name. And my brother Louis, that's already a Danish name. My father contacted, they got false papers, and my father called a social worker who was also in the resistance, and she took them actually to a children's home in where Jose Andersen, the one who wrote where he was born. In that place there was a children's home, not a children's home for orphans. In Denmark, the people were not rich people. They were very poor people, so they were working people. So the children were in a children's home. So they were taken there. But my sister was the one who was there. She was very strict. She was taken there. She was like a little mother. But every night she would say Shema Israel with siblings on Sunday the parents would come to visit, and the leader of this home, she was very afraid that somebody said, these children, they say something strange. They were sent back to Copenhagen. That was before. That was between my parents went with the children between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur, they were already in Sweden, and they were there a few days. And then they came Sukkot, and it was Holocaust Sukkot, I think, and they were sent back to Copenhagen. And Davidson Bolinski, one who was going from home to home. In the meanwhile, he was in the resistance, but all his friends, they already fled to Sweden, and the Germans were looking for him. And he was very, very dark. So they took him to a hospital where they said he should take a big group of children. And he writes in his memories, he said also in Yad Vashem, that he was so happy to see suddenly 3 children of the family Fuks who were friendly with his parents. And they went together with Sweden, I think on Oshano Rabo. They came to Sweden.
So they were one of the last to leave?
The last boat to leave. And they were on the way, and they thought that the captain, that he worked with it, because they started they were not going on the normal route. And my sister, she didn't find, my younger sister, she thought that, and it was very stormy. She was sleeping actually in the bed of the captain. And he saw there's a little girl, she was 6 years old. So she wanted to sleep there. Today we make him a mishpat, He goes to sleep in the captain's bed, but that time we didn't think of any. No, because today you're suspicious of everybody, of every rav or every doctor.
But this was pikuach nefesh.
No, it's stuyot also. But in any case, because he called my brother with a treif, something in his day. He said, "Louis, you're not going to eat this." He was very strict, and he said he ate it, and I'm sure that something happened to his head afterwards. So never mind. But in any case. He was so happy he went, and they went out the route. What did the captain? The captain knew there were many Germans. They were looking for boats, so he went as if he was going towards Poland. There's a boat. And then he turned around. There's something. He came on another place in Sweden. On the purpose he did it, and they came to Sweden and reunited with my parents. Baruch Hashem. My mother said they had a wonderful time in Sweden.
And your parents, they had the grandfather who was a shochet.
Yeah, he went with them, and in the book he writes Bertelsen. He writes about my grandfather, that he was a very learned Talmud. He said, and he was sitting with all this group of people that were telling stories on the attic. They were hiding there. And he was telling stories from the Gemara. When I tell stories, it's not from somebody else. I get from my grandfather, from my mother's side, also from my father's side. He said all this group was sitting, and my grandmother, and my step-grandmother, she was very fat, but they all got to Sweden. I had an aunt, but he was in Switzerland. But she was helping Jews. They ended up also in Sweden with her only son. She was divorced, but she has a Swiss passport. But in any case, they all ended up in Sweden. And before you go out to an amazing story about my cousin, if you have time, it's another 5 minutes. And my cousin, he was born in Germany, because one of my aunts, or my sister's mother, she made some from Germany called Hildesheim. But when in 1934, my grandfather, from my father's side, he had a foresight. He sent the money. He said, "You are coming out to Denmark because of this Hitler. He's going to be very bad to the Jews." That was in 1934. I got his memories. He wrote memories, and they came to Denmark. And even his other grandparents also came to Denmark. He was double cousins of those of the uncle who did not fly, who came to Theresienstadt.
Because he didn't believe that was kind of.
No, he was in Denmark. No, they all came to Denmark, but he said that his grandparents from the German, they also came to Denmark in 1939, and in 1945, in 1943 they had to flee there. So they were thought to be the group of people in another place, also near the sea. And it was Erev Yom Kippur, and they were waiting for the boat. And suddenly the grandfather, a very religious family, Hildesheim, he said to his wife, "I want to daven mincha." And there was a little, not box, but like a little lift. And he said, I'm going there to daven mincha. And his wife went with him to daven mincha. It's a long mincha era was. When they came out, there was nobody on the shore. So there came a guy past, he said, somebody had given it to Germans, and they were all arrested. He was saved because he daven mincha. He went with another group, and suddenly, and they didn't know in Sweden where he was. And suddenly he appears on Yom Kippur. He was on Yom Kippur, he went on Yom Kippur. Isn't it amazing?
It's incredible. And can I ask, did your siblings or your parents, did they speak about the experiences?
Yes.
And they spoke about
my father didn't speak. He was always working. My father was always working at the time. He didn't say so many things. He told them more about what happened. You know, what they told him in shul about the poly. I didn't know anything about this. He told he heard in the shul that Rabbi Mom got married to Georit and all this, and suddenly I said maybe somebody. Yes. Okay. Wow. It's my mother-in-law, but no, he spoke about more what happened in the Kiel. He never spoke.
But with your siblings, did you speak to them a lot about the experiences?
Yeah, we learned in the school about this. Not like in here. They don't learn anything. We learned about because the Danish people were part of it.
But it's now so we have Kikardenia not far away.
Yeah, when they made this, my oldest daughter was she was a little girl already, and I remember I got a Danish flag for her and a dress in blue, in red and white, and we went there. Yes, we went even to the concert. I remember. I was back to number 2, I think. Yes.
And can I ask today? Unfortunately, Denmark and Sweden, it's not so it's not so pro-Israel anymore.
Sweden was always anti-Semitic. We knew people who lived there, but the Shrita was never good there. And even some Polinsky was very this family. They lived in Stockholm, also my parents. And you know, my father would also make Shrita privately for people who came to him. So the grandfather gave him, and he said, you only go to Fuks. That's the only way I'm relying. And my father was a Esrot in the big shul. He was so much. You only go to that. The only Shoah that I rely on. That is you call him Gitel Fuks. And they didn't eat from my. I did not eat from their shrit also after, but because my father saw things from some that was not so completely okay.
Do you still have any relatives in Denmark?
One of my cousins never married a guy, but suddenly I got a lot of connection, and she passed away last year, 2 years ago, and we were very. You can't imagine her brother was a very big time in Chochem, even in Ramot, a student of Rav Moshe Feinstein. And she wanted to get married to her Goyish husband. We tried, we sent Chabad there, and nothing happened.
But you still kept a kesher? Did you have a kesher with her?
No, in the last, yeah, we had a kesher. For many we had a kesher, good kesher. Mm-hmm. But suddenly when she became very ill, she moved. She became very ill, and suddenly and I spoke, the brother passed away, another brother in Canada, we tried to speak to her, but he didn't want to listen. We don't know why. She's got, her daughters are all Yidden.
Gitel, can I ask, what message do you give?
I have one cousin still left in Denmark. I think she's almost the youngest one before me. Because she was born in the 40s. Mm-hmm. A very, very special girl. She's very beautiful, her mother always became very, very old, to get 90 something. A message, I have a group now from Denmark I think that we grew up I more belong to the Machzik Hadas, because we learned in the Goyish school, we learned in the Cheder. And I think now I've got the new book do you know Isaac in Denmark, here in Beitwagan? No. Yitzhak Isaac? No, his parents, they came from Germany, but they also they met after. I think after he's younger than I am. They both came from Germany. He and Samson was so they wrote a book together. Samson is usually
I've met Samson.
Tuvia? Okay. And
I'm just going to change.
First of all, as you get older, you appreciate more and more and more what you learn as a young person. And also that's maybe why I made for the first years of my mother that I wrote down as many things I could. Because I grew up as the only child because my siblings were much older than I am. And they left the house much before me. And first of all, we learned a lot of Derech Eretz, but not only Derech Eretz. We also learned, I think, we knew that they were Goyim, and we were Jiden. And one of the things that my mother, for example, my sister, once she came home, she asked my mother, what should I do if somebody called me a dirty Jew? Because it happened in Denmark. She said, you have to straighten up your back and be proud. And I think that is a very important thing. And something else that I learned in the house, that was the Akora Satov, to be grateful and to be very honest. My parents were so honest that it's unbelievable how honest they were. And to be happy with what you have. But my parents never forgot the people who helped them, never. And I remember my father he was a shochet, and there was a Goyish, very rich man who sold all the cows, to be shochet. And he took even back, every time they found something not kosher, my father was very medactic, he would take them back. So every year my father would give them to the new year, give him a present. To be grateful to him. And he loved the Jews because of this. And I think that I think it's very important also that the parents tell the children about their childhood. Very much. I made my youngest son, he said, that Mama, tell about something when you were small. How did you make Pesach? What did you make Pesach? Because I've got many also funny memories from Pesach. Not always it's funny, but I think back now it was very funny. And also Shoah. We were all the day in the shul, but we didn't complain. We didn't have so much as today, but I think that is very important to tell that all what you learned and what you learned you as a child, you don't forget. And that's actually my message.
Thank you so much. Oh, it's such a beautiful message, and it's so important.
I don't want to say the funniest thing about Pesach, because somebody wrote it to me, I forgot it. My father used to cook, and he cooked very well. But we had to buy there was one kosher shop for Pesach, and he was weighing everything. It was in hand, everything, and he made a mistake. He wrote on the back was from paper. I think he wrote. We didn't even get broken in the house, but he wrote. I think. He made a mistake, and in any case, the soup that he made, we thought it was a kartoffel from Tapuchei Adama, from potato powder, and it was salt of soup. And the soup, it was so not tasty. And we had a guest, a very nice girl. We ate because she was coming not from family. She invited every Shabbos almost, and also on Pesach she was always by us. And she was the only one who ate the soup. But my mother did not want to make my father unhappy. So when we went out the kitchen, she took the soup. And we had a vase it was not transparent. And she poured all the soup in back and said it was very tasty. My father never found out that the soup was in the vase instead of eating it. I wrote to my friends, they were all laughing. Such an idea. She didn't want to hurt my father. So, but we couldn't eat the soup, so we poured in there in the vase.
Well, I want to thank you. But there's a wonderful story about what you just mentioned. But I'm just so grateful to you, and really hearing the story of your family and the Karasa Tov, and it's just it's incredible. I just want to mention, that we were brought up with this wonderful story that. The father came home from shul, and the mother had made the soup, and she put so much salt into the soup I don't know if you heard the story, and then somebody tasted it, and then there was a guest, and he didn't want to embarrass the family, so he said, you know what, I want to have some more of the soup. But really, your message and what your family went through and what you've gone through, it's so special, and you're such an example for all of us, and I'm so grateful that I was here. You mentioned about the forum in Har Zeitim, where my late mother and my Baba's buried, but you, please God, for many, many, many years. But it's a big schut to be in Har Zeitim. It's a tremendous schut, and I think your family are remarkable, and you've taken after them. And
wait a second, my children.
And you should just have mazel and bracha, and thank you so much.
Amen. Thank you.
It's really, really special.